Welcome to Silver Palace, a game I've been extremely excited to try, and after spending more than 18 hours in the first closed beta, it's finally time to share my first impressions. Overall, I genuinely enjoyed my experience, though I do have a few concerns worth talking about. Before we go any further, it's important to remember that this is CBT1, meaning the game is still very early in development. The story is short, there are only 7 playable characters, and many systems are clearly unfinished or missing. Because of that, you really can't judge the game based on this footage alone. A proper verdict will only be possible in CBT2 or closer to launch, so everything in this video is strictly based on early impressions rather than final conclusions. Silver Palace is a gorgeous open-world 3D action RPG set in a Victorian-era Gothic fairy tale world, and visually, it's absolutely stunning. The game features fast-paced combat, a massive world to explore, and a surprising amount of freedom. You can roam the streets on foot, soar through the skies, solve puzzles, invest in houses and businesses through a real estate system, and even live out the fantasy of being a full-on detective, all while fighting some insanely powerful and stylish bosses. The overall atmosphere and presentation are easily one of the game's strongest points. Story-wise, the entire narrative revolves around you being a detective, and it unfolds in a step-by-step investigation-style format. Outside of main story quests, you'll analyze NPCs, uncover enemies disguised as civilians, evaluate buildings, and engage with systems that reinforce that detective fantasy. There's also a real estate mode where you can invest in stores for passive income, though in its current state it feels fairly basic and clearly unfinished. CBT1 introduces 7 reactor attributes and 6 identities, or classes, but unfortunately the game does a poor job explaining what they actually do. From what I've seen, the 7 playable characters are split into heroes, who function as DPS characters like the main character, Cinderella and Alf, guardians, who provide damage amplification through skills or motives, including Firtho and Lauren, and witnesses, who act as healers or buffers, such as Argos and Cynthia II. The playable elements include Ignis, Glacius, Fulmin, Gravitas, and Radiation. There's also a resonance system that rewards smart team building. After selecting your team, you choose reactors that activate effects when switching characters, such as healing, shields, or buffs. After testing this in tougher battles, I can confidently say that resonance effects actually matter and can make a noticeable difference. Instead of traditional weapons, the game uses motives, which are class-specific items that provide stats and passive effects. Combat places a strong emphasis on parrying, dodging, executions, and skill timing. The so-called gun gameplay is more like a character skill rather than standard shooting, and not every character even uses a gun. The combat flow feels similar to Wuthering Waves, with parry-focused gameplay and a switch-in mechanic where actions build up stacks that allow characters to perform an ambush when swapping in. If you're over-leveled, you can get away with dodging and basic attacks, but when enemies are stronger, parrying becomes essential until you break their stance and finish them off. While the system is currently fairly basic, combat feels smooth overall, though the camera zoom and angles can make fights harder to read than they should be. As expected for CBT1, there's no gotcha system or dupe system yet. Progression is limited to leveling, limit breaks tied to crisis level, and basic talent upgrades. Character stats are fairly standard and don't do anything particularly unique at the moment. Exploration is familiar territory if you've played other open-world gacha games. Most progress comes from solving simple puzzles, finding hidden chests throughout the city, and flying onto rooftops using your mount. There's no jump mechanic in this beta, which makes movement feel awkward at times. That said, the flying horse mount, yes, a literal Pegasus, is incredibly fun. Riding air currents and flying across the entire map feels amazing and easily becomes one of the most enjoyable parts of exploration. The music leans heavily into classical themes with a modern twist, which fits the setting beautifully. Voice acting is solid overall, with only a few missing lines that seem more like unfinished implementation rather than poor localization. From what I experienced, localization quality was good, with very few noticeable grammatical issues. The game includes a basic daily system centered around spending stamina, and while there's no resetting Abyss-style mode yet, there is a challenge mode called Deep Cognito that appears to be permanent. There's also a roguelike simulation mode, which I actually enjoyed quite a bit. It doesn't use timers, allowing you to play characters you enjoy instead of chasing meta picks, and if you fail the final boss, you can retry without restarting the entire run. That said, the mode could use more variety, such as hidden bosses or rare buffs, to keep it engaging long-term. Most of my issues with the game come from traversal and quality of life features. Character movement is very basic, limited to walking, sprinting, grappling, and vaulting over small objects. For such a vertical open world, the lack of jumping or climbing feels like a strange design choice, especially when so many chests are placed on rooftops. Falling off a roof can turn into a frustrating experience, as getting back up often requires flying or finding stairs. Flight itself feels great in the air, but awkward when landing, and the stamina restriction on flight feels unnecessary. Chest visibility is also an issue. There's no sweep function for farming, and execution cooldowns are shared across teammates, and these small frustrations add up over time. Overall, I've enjoyed my time with Silver Palace's first closed beta, and if the developers continue expanding the roster, improving combat depth, refining exploration, and addressing quality of life issues, the game has strong potential. This is far from the final product, and a lot will likely change in future betas. These are just my first impressions of Silver Palace. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.